Hey guys, welcome to Aptera Owners Club. I want to do this video comparing Elio Motors with Aptera Motors because some people like to make the comment that Aptera is like Elio, but I want to show that they're completely different. Um, in terms of the car, you could say that they're similar in that they're both a reverse trike um, uh, type of car with two in the front and one in the back. And they're both small two-passenger vehicles that are meant to be efficient. Um, but other than that, they're completely different. Like this one has realistic pricing at 25,000. This one has unrealistic pricing at 15,000. And before it was at 68,000. But let's go through the history. So, Elio Motors was founded in 2009, and they said that they were going to release a vehicle for production and sell it in 2012. And they've been delaying their vehicle every year, and it's 2021, so they've been basically stringing people along for over 9 years, probably 10 plus years. And most of the people have put down a non-refundable deposit and they've burned through that money. And as of now, they still have no vehicle. Aptera was founded in 2006. They basically designed a vehicle for the Progressive Insurance Automotive X Prize, and then they started going into production, and they said that they were going to launch a car in 2009. However, what happened is they hired Paul Wilbur, and then he wanted to run it like a traditional auto company, and they started looking at like four-wheeled vehicles, and they started looking into trying to get this government loan, which they couldn't get because it was not a four-wheeled vehicle, and they started making a four-wheeled vehicle. Anyway, many people that followed Aptera the first time kind of blame Paul Wilbur for running it into the ground. Steve Fambro and Chris Anthony into left the company or were kicked out of the company. It's hard to know what in 2009, and then by 2011, Aptera. So they, after 2 years of trying to put the car into production, they realized they did not have the capital to put the car into production, and they returned all the deposits and they liquidated the company. So, um, you could say they were stringing people along for 2 years versus 10 years and still counting for Elio. Okay, so in that way, they're somewhat similar. And so Aptera Motors was re-established under Chris Anthony and Steve Fambro just 2 years ago in 2019. Since then, I feel like they've run a lot better. And I think a couple of things make me feel like they are different. One is the leadership. So Paul Elio is basically the only person running Elio Motors. I couldn't find out that they have any executive staff with um, any experience in taking a startup to production. Um, and basically, Paul Elio is an engineer. He had an engineering firm. I could not find a website for this engineering firm. I looked up ESG engineering and I got like a wastewater treatment fund out in the southeast. That's not his company. So this one does not have a website. So it's really odd that an engineering company does not have a website in this day and age. However, supposedly he has one, and supposedly this is successful. But an engineering company does not produce anything. They do engineering, so they design things, but they don't have to make a supply chain or manufacturing. And then other than that, he's done Elio Motors, and other than besides that, he hasn't really done anything. So Paul Elio has never successfully brought a product to market. All right, let's compare that to the two leaders of Aptera currently. So Chris Anthony, um, he founded Epic Boats, which is a wake boating company, and Flux Power. All right, so Epic Boats delivered vehicles. They delivered and sold vehicles for several years, and you can go to different magazines like Wakeboarding Magazine and here like um, and Wired, and they have reviews of their boats. You can look up reviews of their boats. So he he had a startup company and got the supply chain, got the manufacturing, and delivered boats to people. And then Flux Power, um, let's see. Yeah, Flux Power is a publicly traded company based out of Vista, California, very close to San Diego. They make lithium ion battery packs for forklifts and other things. And this is a legitimate company. They're still in business, they're still doing work. He founded it. And so that's another successful company. Um, Steve Fambro, after he left, he started Famgrow. They delivered products, they sold these. So he had a vertical farm, urban farm, basically. They were selling these at, let's see, it says in here, like I think like Whole Food, yeah. So Whole Foods, Barron's, Cardiff Seaside Market, other local grocery stores. So they were he developed the system, he sold a product. So he brought a product to market. He also set up a large vertical farm in Abu Dhabi and before he came back. So these guys are are not scammers. They've successfully built companies and delivered products to market. Also, they recently hired Pablo Ucar. He is a supply chain specialist and he has worked in successful companies like SpaceX and had worked with a company that did not succeed as well, like Faraday Futures. Um, and uh, and so they're getting other people on board um, to help them bring this car to market. And then if you look at who's invested in them, like Sandy Munro has invested in them. They have, I think this includes funding from the first round, but since this new round, I think, if you listen to their investor Q&A, they've raised about 40 million since 2019. And they seem to be doing financially pretty well. I think they're going to need a lot more money to bring it to manufacturing because manufacturing is expensive. But I suspect that if they get to that point, hopefully they will be able to get more big investors and some financing in the bond market to make that happen. Um, those of you who are watching that have started companies or know more about financing, please comment below and tell me what you think about the whole thing. The other thing is I read through the latest SEC filing from Elio Motors, and it is sobering, basically. All right, so here you go. So they had legal proceedings where they got fined $500,000 because they didn't have the right licenses by Louisiana. That is the least of their problems. Um, uh, Here's what they are saying. Okay. Our limited operating history makes evaluating our business and future projects difficult. And they say we have yet, Elio Motors was formed in October of 2009. We have yet to produce or deliver our first vehicle. We have not generated any revenue. Um, the Elio is still in development. We do not expect to start delivering to customers until 2023. Okay, and they've been stringing people along and pushing back the production date for over 10 years now. Um, and so for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, we generated a loss of $18 million, bringing the accumulated deficit to approximately $215 million. So they're in debt $215 million, at least. If you read further, they're so this tells you that they have $26 million in non-refundable deposits. They have obviously burned through this cash. They have 1.2 in refundable. This is supposedly being held in escrow. So they hopefully have not touched that. These people may at some point be able to get their money back. These people, unless by some miracle Elio actually delivers a product and becomes profitable, these people are never getting their deposits back. Um, where is it that I saw this? I was reading this and it was okay. I think let's scroll down further. Okay, yeah. This is it. Okay, so they had at the end of the year they had cash of 130,000 on hand and a working deficit of 104 million. Um, they talk about all their creditors that they haven't paid back at all. Like these guys, they owe them $4 million. These guys, they owe them $2 million. This Racer Trust, they owe them $23 million. They have this. This is the way they got their manufacturing plant. Which they're leasing. They don't own it. Um, they've like basically reconfigured their loan with them every year, and they have they have missed out on every single monthly payment they owed them up to the tune of $4 million, and they've been extended until September of this year. But there's no way they're going to pay that back. Um, Yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, this is what I read. Okay. So basically they said after we have experienced recurring net losses from operations which have caused us an accumulated deficit of 215 million. So they have a debt of 250 million in addition. So on top of that, they have a working capital deficit of 105 million. So together it's like 320 million dollars that they're in debt. So I have no idea how they plan on manufacturing a car. Like, who's going to loan these guys money when they already have debts of $320 million and they haven't paid back any of their creditors like at all? And their track record is dismal for the past decade. Um, so I do not see how in any way they are going to make this thing happen. So I don't really see a path forward for Elio. It would take a miracle for them to work out. Whereas with Aptera, it seems like they're making the right moves. They're financially solvent. They have a realistic plan. I do think that their production goals are a little optimistic. I mean, supposedly they think they're going to deliver a vehicle by the end of this year. That is highly unlikely, I think. But I think they are on track to deliver something by 2022, and I'd be ecstatic if I got my car in 2022. And they are a startup car companies. Startup car companies are extremely hard, and so if you're thinking about investing in them, you should know that there is a chance to lose your money completely if you invest in them. But there is a huge upside if they produce, the stock could go up tremendously. But I think Aptera is doing it the right way. They are making it an investment instead of doing this non-refundable deposit nonsense that Elio Motors did. They basically, I hate to say it, but I feel like they scammed people. Um, so, so a couple of things, in summary, they have a much more realistic vehicle. They have a plan to manufacture it. They're hiring the right people to make it happen. And their founders and their leaders have a track record of success of building startup companies that actually deliver products to people. Elio, on the other hand, is $320 million in debt, has been stringing people along for over a decade, has a leader that has no track record of ever delivering any product to a customer other than design, but no physical product that requires supply chain and manufacturing has ever been discovered. And they've hired no people in leadership that have any experience of doing that. So I just don't see a valid comparison between these two companies other than that their vehicles look superficially a little bit the same, and there was a time when the first iteration of Aptera was not able to deliver a vehicle, but in that case they did return everyone's deposits after 2 years, and most of us that have been following Aptera understand that it was probably this decision to go after this government loan that probably doomed the company when they did not get this government loan. And then they try to do a four-wheeled vehicle and just try to change their plan and re-engineer a new vehicle, and they just did not have the capital to do that. So the two are not comparable, and I think it's an unfair comparison to say that Aptera is anything like Elio Motors.